kicking a football is a skill that is used around the world with many sports. Within each sport, however, the kicking styles have evolved to suit the game rules, different ball types, and the role kicking plays within the game. The Sport of Australian Football League, or AFL, is what is focused on here, with significant consideration on the skill of kicking. Kicking plays a predominant role in AFL, with the most commonly employed kick being the drop punt. However, other specialised kicks include the torpedo, banana or snap kicks. These kicks are also used in general play of other common Australian and world sports, such as rugby league and rugby union. Before reflecting on someone performing the kicking skill and identifying their strengths and weaknesses, it is important to understand the mechanics of the kick. Kicking is a complex motor task that we learn as children, and it is therefore important children develop the right technique while they are young. It is a skill that athletes continue to try and improve, particularly in match play situations, such as being under pressure. It involves proximal to distal acceleration from the trunk through the leg and to the foot. Kicking involves the use of the whole body, not just the leg, and to maximise the velocity of the foot at impact, it is imperative that the correct sequencing of movements is developed. A successful kick in AFL is typically measured by how accurate the kick was, either by scoring a goal or reaching its target. The quality of contact between the foot and ball and foot velocity are the particular determinants of a successful kick in AFL. There are numerous key characteristics that could impact on how efficient and effective the athlete is at kicking. These include the athlete's ability to exert power, speed, agility and balance, and the athlete's lactate threshold. The most important aspect in kicking, however, is the impact, which is the point the foot makes contact with the ball. The emphasis on grip, approach, leg swing and follow through are not as crucial, as the kicking technique and situations vary throughout the context of the game. Therefore, the player's ability to make strong, accurate impact with the ball will determine if the ball reaches its target. Typically, the kicking motion, consisting of an approach, kick and follow through, will progress in a linear motion, with the sequence of the footballer's kicking technique typically progressing towards the target or goal, allowing for the transfer of momentum from the approach to the ball. Now that we have outlined some of the underlying components associated with the skill of kicking, let's identify some strengths and weaknesses of a novice athlete performing these skills. Nicole is a young adult looking to improve her kicking technique. Nicole successfully demonstrates that she has a firm foot at impact, effectively accelerates her lower leg through the ball, and usually points her toes to the target after impact. As mentioned previously, the control of the ball onto the foot, acceleration of the lower leg, and having a firm footed impact are all important learning points in developing the correct kicking technique that affect the impact on the ball. Nicole can successfully complete these skills, however, there is still an opportunity to enhance these skills further and develop the other fundamental components that are associated with kicking, such as balance, grip and follow through. Controlling the drop of the ball onto the foot is one of the first important aspects of developing a sound kicking technique. Nicole typically demonstrates this skill with most of her attempts at kicking. The acceleration of the lower leg typically occurs with a smooth and fast summation of force, starting from a steadying stride prior to the kick, through the backswing phase, back down the kicking leg and through the ball. Nicole in general demonstrates most of these components. Nicole also demonstrates that she has a firm foot at impact, which requires both feet to plantar flex during the kicking phase, with the ankle staying slightly flexed and rigid. As mentioned, by acknowledging Nicole's strengths, she can in general kick the ball with success. However, in order to understand the key elements that influence how we improve our performance, it is also important to identify and acknowledge the weaknesses, which can then be improved through remedial practices. Nicole sometimes lacks the ability to control the ball onto the foot in some of her attempts. Fails to slightly bend her body, keeping her head over the ball. And does not follow through after kicking the ball. Other factors such as grip on the ball are also important when developing the correct kicking technique. Nicole fails to spread her fingers evenly along each side of the ball. This grip should be the same for either left or right foot kickers. These weaknesses have been identified as they are key components that affect Nicole's kicking technique. Controlling the ball onto the foot is a key element in kicking. The ball should be guided down onto the foot with one hand, and the football should be in line with the kicking leg. Having your body slightly bent forward and keeping your head over the ball is also important. This can affect balance and in turn the drop of the ball. Following through after the kick is also a significant point to try and develop. It will help with accuracy and the distance the ball can be kicked. As identified, the grip is also important. With the correct grip, athletes have better control of the ball and can therefore choose which kick is appropriate for the situation. Now that Nicole's strengths and weaknesses have been identified, it is important to acknowledge that where possible the kicking drills should emulate those that will be required in a game of AFL. However, ensuring the athlete or child develops the correct kicking technique would be the first step to help improve their performance. The following activity should be done as a closed or blocked practice activity, where there is no pressure or time limit on the child or athlete to perform the skill. The focus of the activity should be on the process of the skill as opposed to the product of the skill. The process of the skill focuses on learning the skill correctly with the right technique and with an emphasis on the child or athlete doing their best. Once the child's skills become more advanced, random practice activities should be utilised and would emulate more gameplay situations. This activity is designed to get Nicole to modify her kicking technique. More markers have been placed where Nicole can start from once her kicking technique develops. Where her plant foot or non-kicking foot should be, and where her kicking leg needs to follow through to. It is designed to further develop and enhance most of Nicole's weaknesses. As identified, the most important aspect of kicking is impact on the ball, and will ultimately be developed the more a child or athlete picks up a ball and kicks it. The first part of this drill, however, encourages development with this. Using a tennis ball, the focus is on controlling the ball onto the foot. This is encouraged due to the smaller contact surface of the tennis ball. One of Nicole's other weaknesses that was identified was following through with her kicking leg after she kicks the ball. This drill encourages Nicole to land her kicking leg between the blue markers after she kicks the ball, which in turn will assist with distance the ball can be kicked and accuracy. This drill also encourages Nicole to keep her head over the ball with her body slightly bent forward. This was promoted when instructing Nicole how to kick the ball and further endorsed after her attempts. Nicole's last identified weakness was to do with her grip on the ball. Nicole was shown how she should grip the ball and was encouraged throughout the previous drill. This is a standard grip of the ball for a drop punt. However, as mentioned, will change in the context of a game, with some athletes preferring a different grip on the ball. The following grip can be utilised for a torpedo punt for a right foot kicker. The ball should be held at a slight angle across the body. Note, the right hand is held back a little from the left hand. The torpedo will spin in a spiral motion, nose first. This grip can be utilised for a right foot banana kick. This grip is the exact opposite from a torpedo, with the nose of the ball facing the outside of the right leg. An example of a kicking skill or game that could be incorporated in the school setting could be kicking tennis. It will allow children to develop, refine and adapt the skills of kicking to improve their performance, and acknowledges and allows for the considerations acknowledged previously. This game requires anywhere from 2 to 10 players on each team, depending on how big the playing field is. Each player kicks the ball over the space in the middle, with the aim of getting the ball to hit the ground on the other side. Other considerations that a teacher or coach needs to consider include encouraging the child to mentally practice or picture what it will take to complete the skill successfully. Practicing the skill as a whole or breaking it down into sections or part practice also needs to be considered. If implementing part practice activities for a complex activity like kicking, it is important the child has time to learn the skills separately, then put them together to practice sequencing, and then followed by whole practice. The length and distribution of the training should also be considered, as short practice sessions produce better learning outcomes, as they avoid physical and mental fatigue and boredom. These activities should also have high repetitions of the skill, which will maximise participation and allow for more practice of the skill involved. After modifying movement experiences, creating a safe and supportive learning environment is the next key element that influences how we improve our performance. A safe and supportive environment considers the functionality and age appropriateness of the learning environment, promotes independent learning whilst maximising participation, challenges participants in a safe environment, and ensures that participants are not singled out or put on display for others to see. These are significant considerations when developing and implementing training programs. Assessing learning outcomes and reflective practices are the last key elements that influence how we improve our performance. Imperative to assessing learning outcomes is to provide the learner with feedback about the extent to which they are making progress toward their goals. Feedback can be inherent, which is gained through the child's own sensory mechanisms, or can be extrinsic or augmented, which is feedback that is supplemental to the inherent feedback. Augmented feedback can be utilised to improve performance through informational feedback, which provides information about successes or failures of the performance and by prescriptive means of how to improve performance. More of a focus on the successes is preferred and is related to providing positive feedback. It can also be done through motivational functions, which keep interest, maintain alertness, set higher performance goals, and make boring tasks more enjoyable. This in turn makes a child or athlete keen to practice more often, which produces better performances. Augmented feedback can be utilised through reinforcing functions, which provide a connection between stimuli and the movements. This links internal commands to the outcomes that were produced in the environment. Once learning outcomes have been assessed and feedback provided, it is essential the learning outcomes are reflected upon against the goals and evaluated and modified if needed for the future. Kicking is a skill that we continually try and develop. It is therefore imperative children learn the skill while they are young, and is best done by acknowledging the key elements of how we improve our performance as acknowledged in this video.